Brothers and sisters around the world, it is I, Comrade Zero, speaking to you from underground in the United States of America in a time of terrible heat in many different ways. Recently, scientists announced that we just had the hottest spring on record. The hottest spring on record, followed by the last 2 summers, which were some of the hottest on record. How much more evidence do you need? Do we really have to wait another couple of years to go to Copenhagen or whatever city they're going to hold the next climate change conference in? All they decided the last time they had one was that they would meet in a couple more years. Well, how much worse does it have to get? They're also predicting that we'll probably have an El Nino system this year. What causes an El Nino system? Superheating water in the Pacific Ocean, which is going to change the progress of storms and will no doubt make all of our lives more complicated, and we'll have more billion-dollar disasters that the government will have to try to take care of. How much longer do we have to delay until catastrophe destroys us all? Well, as long as the capitalists are in charge, I'm not sure that another conference is going to do anything. After all, in the United States, the current election coming up is between 2 capitalists. Just one, a right-leaning, corporatist, big bank, big business capitalist, Mitt Romney, and one not quite as big on all that, Obama. We know where he gets his money from. But in our age of Citizens United, as was reflected recently in the attempted recall of Governor Walker in Wisconsin, out-of-state billionaires contributed 8 times as much money as could be raised by the people trying to do the recall. Now, money doesn't make anybody go vote a certain way, but when you outspend an opponent 8 to 1, 10 to 1, that means you get to put 10 times as many ads on TV, in newspapers, in magazines, on the radio. This has an effect on people when you constantly get hammered with a specific message. So all those undecided voters who are so important in American elections will have a chance of getting swayed by the money. That is the problem that needs to be corrected. There is a move right now in the country called Move to Amend. You can look them up on the internet. They have petitions to try and get an amendment, which would be the 28th Amendment to the United States Constitution, to try and undo the Citizens United mess by recognizing that only people, not corporations, have a voice and that money does not count as a voice. So don't lose heart, my left-leaning brothers, because of the results in Wisconsin. The money did make a difference. However, we are at fault for losing. We can't blame the money. The problem is that unions and Democrats don't get along anymore. Democrats no longer are going to outright support unions. So unions need to support somebody else. Somebody else who is not capitalist. I'll get to that in a moment. But with nothing but arch-capitalists running for offices, what chance do we have of getting anything done with climate change? Do you hear anybody talking about it? Do you hear Romney talk about it? Well, of course not. To him, it doesn't exist. Do you hear Obama talking about it? Hardly at all. Hardly ever. Wouldn't you think that this would be a great election divisive point? But nobody brings it up. I guess it's just too controversial. So what's the problem with having the capitalists still being in charge? Well, I have a passage here by the excellent Slovene philosopher Slavoj Žižek, a hero to many of us. And this passage describes capitalism, whether it's a Democratic Party or a Republican Party, being the capitalists. I quote, "When Marx describes the mad, self-enhancing circulation of capital, whose solipsistic path of self-fecundation reaches its apogee in today's meta-reflexive speculations on futures, it is far too simplistic to claim that the specter of this self-engendering monster that pursues its path while disregarding any human or environmental concern is an ideological abstraction, and that one should never forget that behind this abstraction there are real people and natural objects on whose productive capacities and resources capital circulation is based and on which it feeds itself like a gigantic parasite." I couldn't do much better than that. So as long as we have 2 capitalist candidates, who most likely one of them is going to get elected, it really doesn't matter which one we elect. We can thank goodness that Rick Santorum didn't get the big money backing, but after After all, his head was removed virtually by our virtual guillotine. If one noticed, after he was sentenced to the virtual guillotine, his disembodied, babbling head started saying an immense number of crazy things, like going down to Puerto Rico and telling those people they needed to speak English. What could one expect of a babbling, disembodied head? But now we don't have to deal with that. We have to deal with Mitt Romney, Mr. Mashed Potato Head. Shapeless, soft, assumes any form, aiming to please. Don't be too carried away by people that warn you how horrible a Romney presidency would be. Oh yes, it would be horrible, but only slightly more horrible than an Obama presidency. Considering that right now, Obama has done absolutely nothing to correct the issues I just mentioned from Zizek's essay. We've done nothing to fix that situation, so it's all waiting to happen again. Remember, J.P. Morgan lost $2 billion on these speculative ventures. Nothing has changed. Neither candidate has talked about changing any of this or trying to protect the world economy from such a disaster from happening again. This is why I am saying now, I implore you, my brothers and sisters, in the United States, we need to vote for Stuart Alexander, the Socialist Party candidate for president. That's right, the Socialist Party. Now, I'm sure you're saying, we have no chance of winning. Maybe, maybe not. But we have a chance of swaying the conversation. Right now, it's going further and further right. We need to bring it back left. I don't mean be centrist like the Democrats are. Pull it back left. This is what it will do. Let's say millions of us go out and vote for the socialist candidate who doesn't win, and we end up with a Romney presidency. Well, what that's going to do for the progressives and the leftists and the Democrats in this country is they're going to realize, oops, we tried to play to the center and we lost. They're going to realize, wow, we lost millions of votes to an actual real progressivist party. This is going to engender a major rethink with the Democrats. So those of you who think that the Democrats might somehow save us all, vote socialist. Now, if Obama still wins anyway, what could happen, I don't say it will, but it could happen, that much like Roosevelt, when he was elected president in the 1932 election, in the throes of the Depression, he admired many of the Socialist Party's ideas. They got a lot of votes back at that time. But he was not a socialist, but he liked some of their ideas, but he had to get people to get him to put those things into action, to smooth the road for him to introduce it into the body of the legislature. The same way would work with the second Obama presidency. If we strongly move to the left and he does somehow get reelected, it should inspire him. The man is an intelligent, thoughtful man. It should inspire him to take some of the ideas from the true left and put them into action. Yes, I know, they would have to run the Senate and somehow take back the House. I do not know if these things are going to happen. But all I know is that you should not waste your time or your vote. If you're a member of 99% movement, the Occupy movement, the Move to Amend movement, you're wasting your time voting for Obama. He's not a true leftist. So go with the true leftist. Vote for Stuart Alexander. Go to the Socialist Party's website. They openly support the Occupy movement, for all of my Occupy friends out there. These are indeed tempestuous times, with problems in Europe, problems over here, and the culture war, which is a fake war meant to distract you from the actual problem that capitalism is this parasite sucking the life out of the people and out of the planet. It is up to us to change this. We may not change it tomorrow. We may not change it this year, but we will change it if we persist. And now, Comrade Zero will leave you with the following closing words. Workers of the world, unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains. You have a world to win.